and welcome along to the first of the live pruning events that will take place across all of my media channels. And the rows in front of me presented far too good an opportunity to actually crack on and do this as a live event. If you want to watch a more coordinated video with a little bit more clear and in-depth information in it, you can now head to my profile either here on YouTube, on Instagram or on TikTok, where you can watch the actually full video of this particular pruning technique. Today we're going to be working on a shrub rose. This one is Sceptered Isle from David Austin Roses. This particular shrub is a mature specimen. It's been in the ground now over 24 months, meaning this particular rose is coming on about 5 to 6 years old, because David Austin keep them for around 24 months before they're supplied. Let's say this one's been in the ground for about 3 years. So we're now clear in the middle part of January to start thinking about pruning the roses. Please, there is no massive rush to get out in the garden, start cutting things back and actually start clearing things. Winter realistically has only just begun and is only just starting to really bite with its frosty evenings. So mature specimens like this rose has been in the ground for more than 24 months. You're clear to go ahead and prune, as you are with established climbing or rambling roses, established tree roses or standard roses. Young roses that have been in the ground for less than 24 months, you really want to be holding off from pruning right through into the middle part of February or maybe into the beginning of March. So I'll be touring you through those at a later time. But this particular rose offered too good an opportunity because it actually is showing some characteristics which is difficult to find sometimes in my garden. So the first thing we're going to do is, this one is actually tied up with some twine just to give it a little bit of support. So the first thing I'm going to do is very carefully remove that twine, being careful obviously because the rose is spiky, and as of yet I've already given myself a thorn. I don't have my gloves on just yet. Sceptered Isle from David Austin Roses is a thorny variety, so I'm just removing the twine, and then I'm going to actually pick up the camera and I'm going to show you what I'm looking at so you can actually see. So right, let's turn the camera around. So this is Sceptered Isle just here. I'm going to stand up so you've got a little bit of perspective. It's a really nice shrub. You can see that she's stretching nice and high, some lovely hips. Didn't quite make it to ripening because the summer was so poor. We're going to be removing those in just a moment. This particular rose has gone completely dormant and now lost all of its leaves. However, you can see, because it's getting to that point in time where it's been in the ground about 3 years, we have some dead wood to remove. So we're going to start by removing those. We've got some crossing stems and then we're going to actually start pruning this one back properly. So now you've seen the actual rose, let's put the camera down and flip this back around so I can see myself again. So we're going to start, as I say, by removing the dead, the diseased and the dying wood first. So let's move the camera around so you can actually see what I'm doing, and I'm going to place you just here while I actually start to work. Hopefully it will stay still. It's one of the issues with these live events, trying to get everything. So there we go, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to pop on some lightweight gloves. I prefer these ones here. These are actually made from recycled bamboo and recycled plastic. They're nice and light, so they actually move quite nicely with your body. Right, you can see I've got a dead stem just here which needs to be removed completely. Nice clean pair of sharp secateurs, nice and well oiled. Simply going to remove that stem completely. I'm going to bring that in nice and close to the camera so you can see it. You can see very, very much dead brown now. And if you are in any way sort of unsure, take the secateurs and just drag them down the bark before you remove the stem. And you can see there underneath the bark, very, very dull, very dry. That stem is completely dead. Keep a bucket or a bag close to hand and make sure that you don't let your rose clippings actually fall on the floor. Pop those into a bucket. Once again, you can see I have some dead wood on the plant just here. I'm going to remove that completely as well, right back to where it came from. Nice clean cut. Again, take that dead wood away and throw that into the bucket. I've then got a couple of little tiny dead bits over here. Hopefully you can see those as well. I'm going to nip those off and remove those completely. And as soon as you start removing this kind of wood, you'll actually start opening up the plant and actually you'll be able to see an awful lot better. Right, a little bit of dead wood here. You can see this stem here with a cluster of dieback. all the way down through here. And right down at the bottom of the plant, if I angle the camera right down, you'll see as the plant, as it comes down, this stem here is actually crossing and rubbing on another stem that's already there. I think at this point in time, now this rose has started to really establish itself, I think it's time that this stem came out completely. So I'm actually going to remove that older stem right back down to here, and I'm going to remove that out of the equation completely. And all of a sudden you can see that this rose has really opened up, because the next thing we're going to be doing with it is then remove anything that's growing towards the center of the plant and try and open up this middle shape just here. And the only one that's really doing it is this stem just here. So I'm going to go once again, remove that completely with a nice clean cut, and then everything is looking really nice and tidy. Don't be afraid to step back away from your plant and assess the situation. And by doing that and just taking a moment as I'm talking to you, I can see I've got one more dead stem just here, which I'm simply going to remove nice and cleanly with my secateurs. I'm then into the situation where all this long and tall growth needs to be removed and cut back. And we need to, wherever possible, select an outward facing bud, and we do that to make sure that the plant continues that outward growing facing growth formation that we want. We want the plant, once we've hollowed out the center, as you've seen me do just there, and take out those central crossing stems, we want the plant to continue to grow outwards. So by selecting outward facing buds, we actually encourage the plant to do that in a natural way, and it continues to grow out and leave that nice central space in the center. And we do that so the plant has lots of natural light airflow and lots of natural ventilation in the center of the plant, which avoids an awful lot of the disease problems you may incur during a wet and damp summer. So if I just move the camera once again, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to pull that up just a little bit more, tilt that back, and you can see, there we go, there's the sceptred aisle just now. And we now want to go around the plant and remove all of this excess growth, all of this large growth, right back to about where it came from last year, shortening those back and creating our permanent framework, which needs to be around 12 to 18 inches from the ground. Personally, I like mine a little bit on the taller side. I like mine to be up somewhere near about 20 inches, because I don't really like to bend down too much when it comes to actually picking my roses and actually enjoy fragrance. Right, you can see you've got a lovely outward facing bud on this stem here. This is obviously where it was cut back to last year. So taking my secateurs with the bud at the top, angling my cut to about 35 to 40 degrees, I'm simply going to remove that stem, selecting the outward facing bud, and I'm going to bring this in close to the camera so you can see what I'm making sure the anvil or the actual blade of the secateur is actually not going to damage or cut the bed as I make my cut, and simply leave it like that. The angle of the cut then, and make sure that water runs off of the cut and away, making sure the stems don't rot, and making sure that you're leaving enough space between the bud and your cut that you're not actually physically crushing it with the anvil or the secateur as it makes its cut. So I'm simply going to go over this plant now and select outward facing buds, keeping my secateurs at the correct angle. I'm going to work my way around. This particular stem is a little bit on the weak side. I'm going to remove that completely. That's not going to have the strength to actually hold a bud. Here, once again, I have a nice outward facing bud, so keeping my secateurs nice and steady, remove those stems. And what I tend to do is what you've probably seen me do off camera, is simply cut the stems up into little pieces as I work, just to keep things neat and tidy. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be dropping that media onto the floor. So once again, selecting an outward facing bud. Even little wispy bits like this you need to nip back and tidy through. This stem here is fairly central to the actual plant, but I've got a nice outward facing bud just here, about the same level as I brought everything else to. Again, secateurs at that 35 to 45 degree angle. Just pruning that away. What else have we got? Again, working our way around. Don't be afraid of actually repeating the steps in your head. Even with all of my experience, I've been gardening for well over 30 years now. Obviously been doing it professionally full-time for a long time. I make a living through actual gardening, have my own gardening and landscaping company, and been doing that for a very long time. But even I make sure that I repeat this in my head as I work around. And don't be afraid of manipulating the stems and moving things in them into position where you can actually see properly. Again, outward facing bud, keep your secateurs at that nice angle. You can see all of a sudden this plant really shaping up quite nicely. We've got this long one stem just here which I now need to work on. So the outward facing bud is just here. Here's last year's cut. outward facing bud here. Removing those stems back. Unfortunately, these hips on Septodile didn't actually quite make it this year. They didn't quite get to actually ripen, but that's what happens some summers. You don't always get there. You can see Septodile put on a huge amount of growth this season. I'm just going to cut this up because this is really quite long. I will, over the coming weeks, also be doing climbing, rambling, and standard roses, as well as talking you through the process on young plants as well. So if this tutorial is not exactly what you're looking for, do keep an eye out for those over the coming weeks. They will be coming very, very soon. You can see those lovely hips. If I bring those into the camera, they are beautiful, but unfortunately they didn't ripen up this year because we didn't have enough sun. So into the compost bin they go. At this stage, if your plant had any remaining leaves, you can then actually remove any leaves that are around the plant that have fallen, which may contain pathogens from last year, some black spot, mold, mildew, that kind of thing. Clear those leaves up before you actually start mulching. But at this time of year, when the temperatures are quite low, Mother Nature is doing her cleaning thing and killing all of those harmful pathogens. So it's really good just to take those away. I'm going to pick up the camera and flip that around, and you'll be able to see that Septodile is now all pruned and ready to go. Beautifully done. You can see my permanent framework somewhere a little bit around the height of about 20-24 inches high. I say I like them a little bit on the tall side. Everything now pruned to an outward facing strong bud. Those cuts nice and strong at 35 to 45 degrees. So that one is all ready and done. As I say, if you want to watch another video and see how it's done on a potted specimen, it's exactly the same with a potted specimen as it would be in a specimen as in the ground. Please do watch the video that was posted about a week ago. It's there for you to watch at any time, and I will be back guiding you through the process with climbing and rambling roses, standard roses and young roses in the next week or two. Right, I will see you all again very soon. Take good care now. Bye bye.